Hi, Chuck Hawley from West Marine with a quick West Systems Epoxy Buyer's Guide. You know, West Systems is one of those products that once you start using it, you find all sorts of applications, whether it's in building projects or reinforcing your boat or sealing out moisture. It does virtually anything. But there are a lot of West Systems products to choose from. So in this short video, we're going to give you a quick overview of some of your choices. Most people would associate West Systems with the 105 series resin. This is sort of the jack of all trades of the West Systems line. With this and various fillers, you can do practically any project. So this may be the right approach for you, although by itself it's insufficient. You've got to add some other products which we'll talk about shortly. Incidentally, if you want to get some experience using the 105 resin, you can get one of these handy packs to just try a little project out for yourself. They're relatively inexpensive. They come with pre-measured amounts of West Systems 105 and other hardeners and gloves and stirring sticks and containers so that you can do small projects. The next product you might want to consider is their G-Flex product, which goes under the number 650 or 655. This is a two-part, again, epoxy and hardener. You mix it 1-to-1, and when you mix it, you can do all sorts of good repair jobs with it. One of the ways that they package the 650 resin is as an aluminum boat repair kit. If you've got an aluminum boat that's riveted, it's got a bunch of little leaks, this allows you to make up a small batch of epoxy that you can put on those rivet heads and have it soak in and seal up your boat completely drum tight. 650 is an unthickened resin mixture. 655 is a thickened resin mixture, meaning it has a little filler already added into it. The 655 is ideal for repairing plastic products like kayaks. If you have a kayak that's really had a tough life and has got a bunch of gouges in it or has even been sawn in half, you can repair it with the 655 repair kit. So this has got everything you need, and what's nice is they include gloves and stirring sticks and little containers and all sorts of things that you're going to need for the project. There's also G5. G5 is a 5-minute, 2-part epoxy adhesive. Now this doesn't have all the same properties. It's not quite as strong as some of the other products, but if you want a quick repair job, the G5 is a great choice. The final product in the West Systems epoxy line is 610 adhesive. This is packaged in a standard 10-ounce tube, and it actually has a tube inside a tube. So as you discharge this out through the nozzle, you get exactly the right mixture of the resin and the hardener. Now this is a thickened adhesive, and it is fantastic for bonding surfaces together permanently. It comes with this mixer tube that it screws onto the top, and it actually forces the epoxy and the hardener to mix beautifully, so when it comes out the end, there's no need for additional mixing. That's 610, a real workhorse. Once you've decided that you want to use 105 resin, you've got to select the correct hardener. The type of hardener that you select depends on the temperature that you're going to be operating in and also the size of the resin package that you've bought. For example, if you buy the quart size, it's roughly a quart, of epoxy, you want to use the 1/5 of a quart size of the hardener. And both of these have the same suffix letter A. So you use an A hardener with an A epoxy. If you use a gallon of epoxy, which is a really popular size, gallon of epoxy has a B suffix. You want to use hardeners that have a B suffix on the container so that by the time you use both of these, you've used up the entire gallon and you've used the right ratio of hardener. There are 4 ratios for 105 resin. The one that I use most of the time in beautiful California is 205. So you'll hear people talking about, oh, I use West Systems 105, 205. Well, that's what they're talking about. This size can goes with this quart of resin. It's a 1-to-5 ratio, 5 times as much resin and to 1 part hardener. If you want a slower hardener, a slower resin matrix, you can use 206. 206 will extend your work time if you're in really warm conditions. And if you're in super warm conditions, you can use what they call their tropical hardener, which is 209. So the only difference between these is the rate at which it cures and the temperature in which you use it. You'll notice the 209 can is bigger. That's because this is used at a 1-to-3 ratio. And we're going to talk a little bit more about ratios in just a second. And incidentally, if you want to do a clear tabletop or something where clarity is very important, you want to use their special clear hardener, number 207. 105 and 207 mixed at a 1-to-3 ratio will give you the clearest possible resin finish. Once you've decided the right resin and hardener you're going to use, you have to make sure you mix them correctly, and that means two things. One is the right ratio, and two is that you mix them completely. For the right ratio, the only way to do this is to buy a set of mini pumps. These mini pumps fit right in replacement of the cap that would normally come on the container. So you remove the cap, you pry out the little airtight part, and you stick the pump back in. Now this one set of pumps will deal with 3 different sizes of containers. So basically this is what you have to remember. It has a very big pump that will take care of the resin, and then it has 2 smaller pumps. The 2 smaller pumps are designed for the 5-to-1 hardeners and the 3-to-1 hardeners. And the rule is 1 pump for the resin, 1 pump for the hardener, and you're all done. What you don't want to do is 5 pumps on the resin and 1 pump on the hardener, because you'll end up with a goopy mess that will never cure. So every West Systems project that uses a can of 105 has to be accompanied by mini pumps. And incidentally, these mini pumps are probably 6 or 8 years old. They don't seem to wear out, and once you use up 1 can, you can take them and transfer them to your new can. The second part, as I said, is mixing. For mixing, you want to use plastic mixing buckets like this. In this case, they have very square corners, and one of the reasons they have square corners is because it allows you to use the West Systems mixing sticks. Now these are little plastic tongue depressor sticks with a round end and a square end. And what's nice is you put a couple of squirts into the container, and then you stir it with the mixing stick, and the corners of the mixing stick and the corners of the container allow you to get all the resin all the way out to the very periphery. So there's no wasted resin that doesn't get catalyzed. So, and incidentally, when you're done, you can just pop the catalyzed resin mixture out of here and use these containers probably up to a dozen times. Now let's talk about fillers. Fillers allow you to do 2 things with the West Systems 105 resin. The first is that they allow you to modify the resin for specific tasks that you have. If you're just coating a piece of wood and trying to make it waterproof, you'll probably use unthickened resin and hardener mixture on it and let it soak into the wood or soak into whatever the surface is. But after that, almost every job that you do with West Systems 105 will require some form of filler. There are 6 fillers, and we're not going to go into any great detail. If you want to know about the fillers, you can go to the West Systems webpage and just print out this page, or you can look in the West Marine catalog or on the various collateral materials that are available for West Systems. What they do is they go through all 6 materials and talk about common boat building and repair jobs. For example, if you're fairing a surface, or if you're making a fillet, or if you're bonding 2 pieces of wood, or if you're sealing wood, whatever you're doing, you'll find it on this piece of paper. Now on the back of each package, that same chart is reproduced right there. So you can take a look at it when you're in the store or wherever you are, and you can figure out for your application which is the best for your purposes. In general though, you'll find that you have 4 products that make a structural hard mass that's very difficult to sand, but it's very tough. Microfibers, which are little chopped up pieces of cotton, little fibers of cotton. High density filler, not sure what's in here, but it is, you can feel physically it's heavy, and it withstands a lot of compression. Filleting blend, which is material that gives sort of a wood-like appearance. Colloidal silica, which is very light in weight, but it cures to an extremely tough matrix. So those are the high density filters. There are 2 low density fillers. One is called low density filler, and the other is called microlite. Microlite, this whole package weighs practically nothing, and you can put a bunch of it in the West Systems epoxy resin mixture. That's actually a benefit number 2, because it allows you to stretch your epoxy, which is relatively expensive, by using less expensive fillers. And by using this material, you get something which allows you to smear it smoothly on a surface and then sand it to a very, very flat finish. The final category of West Systems products are application tools and personal protection. It's really important to be able to put the resin right where you want it and in the right quantity. So one of the first things are these 6-inch glue brushes, very, very handy for applying resin in confined spaces. If you have a big job and you need to use a caulking gun, these are empty caulking tubes where you can pull out the plug on the bottom, fill them up with the resin mixture, and then use a standard caulking gun. And then when you're done, you can pull out the cured epoxy and use them a second or a third time. Really nice and expensive way of dispensing West Systems mixtures. This is one of my favorite. These are little syringes with a very, very fine plastic tip. You snip the tip off to get the diameter of the end that you want. You fill this from behind with the West Systems epoxy mixture, and you can put a very fine bead of either unfilled or filled epoxy exactly where you want it. And once again, you let the epoxy cure inside, and you can pull out the epoxy, break it off, and use these over and over again. Every fiberglass or resin job needs to have some spreaders and some squeegees, so there are a number of these, and these can make a little mixing board too. If you have a small quantity, you can use it on here, and when you're done, you let it cure and just bend it and it'll pop right off. Here's a notched spreader that allows you to put more precise layers of resin mixture on top of surfaces. The notches allow a certain amount of resin to pass, and it's really, really handy, and also with a straight edge so that you can use it as a squeegee. And finally, it goes without saying that you need to wear personal protection when you're doing these projects. The main thing is to protect your skin against the uncured epoxy and hardener, because you can develop a sensitization to it over time, and that would be a bummer. The other thing is that you don't want to breathe the uncured epoxy sanding residue. So if you have some sanding or project that's ready to be sanded but it's still a little bit uncured, it's really bad news to breathe that dust, so make sure you wear a mask when you do that. We hope that these tips have given you a little bit more confidence to undertake a West Systems project, whether it's with some of their one-to-one epoxies or whether it's with West Systems 105 and its hardeners, fillers, application tools, and so forth. Thanks for watching, and remember, the entire West Systems line is available at our West Marine stores across the country and online at westmarine.com.